Before the world knew their name, this is what happened.
I was poor because I didn't have anything. I had no money, I had no things, we had no TV, we had no refrigerator, we had nothing as kids, but I was rich because I had a dream.
But before that dream came true, there was a different moment. A tiny village in Austria, 1965. A young man sitting alone in a military jail cell, staring at 4 concrete walls, wondering if everything he had sacrificed was worth it. He had gone AWOL, left his post without permission, to compete in a bodybuilding contest nobody believed in. He had won, and now he was paying the price. But sitting in that cell, he felt something unexpected. Not regret, not fear, certainty. Who was he? And what does it take to go from that cell to conquering 3 worlds? This is Before They Knew, and this is the story nobody tells. Stay with us. The man who said those words grew up in a house with no running water, no refrigerator, no telephone, in a country still rebuilding from the ruins of World War II, with a father who favored his brother and believed would never amount to anything special. But before we tell you his name, we want you to remember something. There's a moment coming in this story when a young man landed in America with $20 in his pocket, a gym bag over his shoulder, and a dream that had already survived everything his father had thrown at it. Keep that in mind. His name was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Drop a like if you're staying for this one. Trust me, you'll want to. But this isn't just a story about someone who escaped poverty. Those stories exist everywhere. This one is different, because Arnold didn't just leave, he conquered. Not 1 world, not 2, 3. And the question nobody asks when they tell his story is this: what creates a person willing to bet everything on a dream that the whole world called impossible? To understand that, you need to go back to the beginning. Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't born into opportunity. He was born into the opposite. A tiny village called Thal near Graz, Austria, 1947. 2 years after the end of World War II, a country still in ruins, a continent still recovering. His family had no refrigerator, no telephone, no running water until he was a teenager. His father, Gustav, was a strict disciplinarian, a former military officer who ran his household like a regiment. Up before sunrise, chores before breakfast, exercise before school. Every single day, no exceptions. But the hardest part wasn't the discipline, it was the favoritism. Gustav clearly preferred Arnold's older brother. The suspicion that Arnold wasn't even his biological son hung silently over the household. Arnold felt it every day, that quiet message that he was less than, that he didn't quite belong, that he would never be quite good enough. And then, at 14 years old, he picked up a barbell for the first time. And everything changed. Not because it made him stronger, but because it gave him something his father never did, a vision of who he could become. From that moment, he trained every single day, obsessively, relentlessly, with a hunger that nobody around him could understand, because they didn't know what he was training for. He did. By the time he was 18, Arnold had one goal: leave Austria, go to America, become the greatest bodybuilder who ever lived. His father thought it was ridiculous, a waste of time, a childish fantasy, a path that led nowhere. But Arnold didn't argue. He just trained harder. In 1965, he joined the Austrian army. Military service was mandatory, and 1 month in, he went all. Left his post without permission to compete in a bodybuilding contest in Germany. He won, and then came back to face the consequences. Days in military jail, locked up, alone, for following his dream. But even sitting in that cell, he had no regrets, because he had won. And winning told him something his father never could, that he was right. He got out, he trained harder, he competed again, and at 20 years old, he became the youngest person ever to win the Mr. Universe title. The whole world was starting to pay attention, except his father. Gustav Schwarzenegger never came to a single competition, never watched his son win, never acknowledged what Arnold was becoming. He died in 1972, before Arnold became famous, before the world knew his name, before his son proved every single doubt wrong. And Arnold carried that for the rest of his life. In 1968, Arnold Schwarzenegger landed in America. 21 years old, a gym bag, $20 in his pocket, and a dream that had survived everything his father had thrown at him. He spoke almost no English. The accent was heavy. The name was impossible to pronounce. And Hollywood had absolutely no interest in either. Producers told him directly, "You'll never make it as an actor. Your accent is too thick. Your name is unpronounceable. Your body is too big. Nobody wants to see that." Even in bodybuilding, the money wasn't there. 7 Mr. Olympia titles, and still, he had to sell booklets through the mail just to pay his rent. The greatest bodybuilder in the history of the sport, selling pamphlets on how to train your biceps to survive. This was the moment most people would have gone home, back to Austria, back to the village, back to the father who had been right all along. But Arnold remembered something from that cell in the military jail, the feeling of winning when everyone said he couldn't, and he decided that this moment was no different. What would you do when the whole world tells you to go home? He didn't go home. He stayed. He trained. He studied English. He built a construction business with his best friend to pay the bills while Hollywood kept saying no. And slowly, the world started to change its mind. First came bodybuilding. 7 Mr. Olympia titles, the most decorated champion the sport had ever seen. And then, Hollywood called. Not with the roles he wanted, small parts first, forgettable films, roles where they dubbed his voice with someone else's because his accent was too thick. But he stayed. And then in 1984, a director named James Cameron offered him a role. Not the hero, the villain, a machine sent from the future to kill. 2 words. I'll be back. The world had never seen anything like it. The Terminator became one of the biggest films in Hollywood history, and the man they said would never make it as an actor became the highest paid star in Hollywood. But he wasn't done. In 2003, the boy from the tiny Austrian village who arrived with $20 and a gym bag was elected governor of California, the most powerful state in the most powerful country in the world. 3 careers, 3 peaks, 1 dream. the same dream he had in that village when his father told him it was impossible. And through all of it, he never forgot where the hunger came from. Not from the titles, not from the movies, not from the governor's office. From a boy who woke up before sunrise every morning in a house with no refrigerator, feeling like he was never quite enough for the man who raised him. Gustav Schwarzenegger never saw his son win, never sat in the crowd and watched the world go crazy for Arnold, never said the words Arnold probably needed more than any title. And yet, Arnold has said that his father's coldness was the greatest gift he ever received, because it created an emptiness inside him that nothing could fill, except achieving the impossible. "I had a dream," he said, "and that dream was worth more than anything I didn't have." He went back to Austria, not in defeat, but in triumph. The boy the village had never expected anything from came back as the most famous Austrian who ever lived. And he built something for the next generation of dreamers, the ones who felt exactly like he did in that cold house in Thal, the ones who were told their dream was too big, their accent too thick, their name too hard to pronounce, their ambition too unrealistic. He became proof that none of that matters. There's a version of this story where he listens, where he believes his father, where he stays in the village, where the gym bag stays in the closet, where the $20 is all he ever has. That version almost happened. Every time Gustav looked at him and saw nothing worth believing in, every time Hollywood said the accent was too thick, every time the money ran out and the dream felt further away than the village he had left behind. But Arnold understood something that most people never learn. The ones who tell you it's impossible are only describing their own limitations, not yours. So if you're in your own village right now, if the person who should believe in you is the first one to doubt you, if the world keeps mispronouncing your name and telling you to go home, remember a boy who arrived in America with $20 and a gym bag and refused to leave until the world knew his name. That's the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is Before They Knew. See you next time.